Shroomraver here, and today we are back for another installment of the Nickname Academy. Yes, indeed, where I'll be going through every single Pokemon all the way from Bulbasaur through to Zeraora and giving them all nicknames. And once Gen 8 comes out, we're going to do them as well. Now, last time we left off at Magmar. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is going to be the last Gen 1 episode that we do. We are going right to the end of Gen 1 today. So let's not waste any time and kick straight off with the first of the episode, and that's going to be Pinsir. Now, Pinsir is going to be called Flanked, and the reason for this is because flanking is a military term, which means like two sets of the same army or whatever coming in from two sides so as to trap an enemy group in the middle. And this is also known as, it's a flanking movement. It's also known as a pincer movement. So that's what we're going to call Pinsir Flanked. And it works because it's also got those mandibles that, chomp in like that. And this works for the Mega Evolution of Pinsir as well, because it's still got the same name, obviously, the same pincers. So yeah, Flanked is going to be Pinsir. Up next we have Tauros, and Tauros is going to be called Survivalism. Now, why are we calling it Survivalism? Well, Survivalism is a song by the band 9 Inch Nails. 9 Inch Nails, often abbreviated to NIN, N-I-N, because it just is. And this is where we're going to get a little bit strange. NIN, the letters N-I-N, form 1/3 of another Pokemon, Ninetales. It's the first three letters out of 9, so it's 1/3 of that name. Ninetales has 9 tails, and Tauros has 3 tails, which is 1/3 of 9. 1/3 of 9 tails, Nin, 1/3 of 9 tails, Tauros is going to be called Nin. So there we go with Tauros. After Tauros, we have one of the most useless Pokemon in existence, that is going to be Magikarp. And Magikarp is going to be called Sublime, which is a little bit of a misnomer, but it's named, again, thinking with the musical theme, after the band Sublime, a ska band, and it's because they have a song called Bad Fish, and Magikarp is quite literally a bad fish. So that's why it's called Sublime. Very simple. Not quite so simple is going to be its evolution, Gyarados. Such a powerful Pokemon, and this is going to be called Inkanyamba. I think I'm saying that right, Inkanyamba. What is Inkanyamba? Well, Inkanyamba is the name given to this supposed legendary serpent, which is said to live in, I'm getting this right, Howick Falls in Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. Howick Falls being a series of waterfalls, and in this pool is where this legendary serpent is said to live, and if legend is to be believed, Inkanyamba's anger causes these seasonal storms, which is kind of linked to Gyarados' anger as well. And the waterfall comes into it with Gyarados and Magikarp being based on this Chinese legend of a carp jumping over this Dragon Gate waterfall to become a dragon. So you've got the waterfall theme going, you've got this angry weather-changing serpent, so I think it fits quite nicely with Gyarados. And it fits with a Mega version of Gyarados as well. We're not changing up the name there, it's a similar kind of thing. It's still a big, angry sea serpent. So there we go, Gyarados Inkanyamba. Sticking with water types, we have Lapras up next. Lapras, very simply, is going to be called Q. Why is this? Well, we are looking once again to our friend Google Translate to help us with this. We take the two parts of Lapras' name, the La and the Pras. Lapras is a phrase in Esperanto. Esperanto is that sort of semi-invented language, which is a combination of many languages all sort of shoved together. So that fits my theme of nicknaming things with things shoved together. Intended as sort of a universal second language. And Lapras in Esperanto translates to the prompt. And in the world of theatre, a prompt is a cue. So there we go. Lapras is going to be Q. Up next we have Ditto. And Ditto is going to be called Fair Use. And I'm aware I'm in a little bit of sketchy territory here with various drama things that have gone on the Twitter universe. But yeah, fair use is the idea that one can use stuff that is owned by other people, I guess with like permissions and slight changes made to it. I'm not really sure of the rules on fair use. I try and steer clear of even getting involved in that and you know, trying to use all my own work. But either way, Ditto transforms into other things. It copies other things with ever so slight changes to them. So Ditto is going to be called fair use. Moving on, and we have the adorable little Eevee up next, and Eevee is going to be called Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi is a Japanese, I believe, car brand, and one of their sort of flagship makes is the Mitsubishi Evo. Big in the rally world, the Mitsubishi Evo. And indeed probably in like Need for Speed games. But yeah, it's the Evo, and you know, Eevee is all about evolution. So Evo, it was, you know, that's where they got the name from, sort of the evolution of rally driving. So yeah, Eevee's going to be called Mitsubishi. Now Eevee can evolve into one of 3 Pokemon in Generation 1, and these 3 were the last ones I managed to name in Generation 1, and they're all thematically linked together, which I think fits nicely. So first up, Vaporeon. Vaporeon's going to be called Hadean, and you'll notice with the next 3, they're all named after global eons, the sort of time-based divisions of the geological time scale. These 4 eons we've had so far, and the Hadean eon is the first one. We're going with eon because they all end in eon, and the Hadean eon was when it was the first one, so it was when water first came into being. Very hot atmosphere, so we saw lots of vapor, so it was kind of the vapor eon, Vaporeon. There we go. The next option to evolve Eevee into is Jolteon, and Jolteon is going to be called Phanerozoic. Phanerozoic. The Phanerozoic eon is the 4th and the current global eon. So it's the current one, and I'm scraping a little bit with this because these 3 are very hard to name, but given that it's the current global eon, this is when electricity was discovered. It has to have been. So if we're going to go with that, it would be the Jolt eon. And there we have Jolteon. Final option to evolve Eevee into is Flareon, and Flareon's going to be called Archeon. Now the Archeon was the 2nd of the global eons. We didn't do the 3rd one. Forget that. The 2nd global eon, the Archeon eon, this time the Earth still sort of evolving and saw lots of volcanic activity. It was a very hot climate with lots of volcanic activity to say, and fire, so it was the Flare eon. And there we have Flareon. So yeah, that's the evolutions done, and we shall move on to the next in our list, which is going to be Porygon. Porygon's going to be called Debug, and obviously we're going to go with a computery theme here. Now, the reason we've gone with debug is because there is a method of debugging called rubber ducking. Now, what this is, it's basically this idea of people sorting out and debugging codes by saying them. So what this is, it's based on this idea that a coder would have to explain their code line by line to an object, and the object that was chosen in this particular example, and I don't know if it's actually still used or was ever used, but it was definitely some kind of popularist idea, that you would explain your code line by line to a rubber duck. Much like this one. Yes, I have a rubber duck in my room, and what? So yeah, this idea that you would debug your code by explaining it line by line to a rubber duck, literally this inanimate object, so that you are saying what you've written, so that you can literally in real time see if there are any errors in it, and that is this method of debugging. And it's, you know, rubber duck, but involved with code, which is kind of Porygon. So there we go. Now we get into some fossils for the first time, and we have Omanyte. Omanyte is going to be called Lancelot. Now the reason for this is that Lancelot was, of course, very famously a Knight of the Round Table. So if you asked him what his job was or what he did, he'd be like, I'm a knight. I'm a knight. Omanyte. Eh? There we go. Omanyte, Lancelot. And in a similar theme, we're going to look at our next Pokemon, Omastar, which is going to be called Sun. Very simple. Not water type at all, but we're going with it because the sun is a star. So if you ask the sun what it is, it'd be like, I'm a star. I'm a star. Omastar. Yeah? You see where we're going with that. Omastar is going to be called Sun. So, the other fossil line of evolution, because of course we have one that doesn't evolve coming up later, but first up we are going to focus on Kabuto. Now, Kabuto is going to be called Crispin. Why is it called Crispin? Well, it is named after Crispin Buck, who is a man who was the founder of Kabuto instant noodles. It's these, it's kind of like just these sort of pots where you just get these dried noodles and you pour boiling water and a little sachet of flavouring in or whatever. They're instant noodles. They're Kabuto instant noodles, and it's a Kabuto. So we're going to name it after the founder, Kabuto. It's going to be called Crispin. Next up, I had a bit of trouble with this one until I saw the bleeding obvious right in front of me. Kabutops is going to be called Crispin, by the way, because literally it's exactly the same as Kabuto. It's got a PS at the end. So we're going with the same name but with a PS. By the way, Crispin, by the way, Kabutops. Next up, we have the final Gen 1 fossil. That's going to be Aerodactyl. Another one of my quite early names. This is going to be called Trisyllabubble. Trisyllabubble, which is a bit of a mouthful, but there are reasons behind it. Now, we're going to take the two parts of Aerodactyl's nickname. First up, Aero. What is Aero? It's that delicious bubbly chocolate. Big, nice chocolate bar with bubbles in it. You know, that's sort of their selling point. Then we take a look at dactyl. What is a dactyl? Well, a dactyl is a subject of it's used in poetry, not so much prose, but poetry. It's a subject of the trisyllabic meter, which is sort of the way you enunciate when reading poetry. And trisyllabic meter is a form of meter. So we're going to cram those together, trisyllable, but we're going to put the bubble in there from aero, aerodactyl, trisyllabubble. Mashing them together to give us our nickname. Next up, we have possibly my favourite Pokemon from Gen 1, and me in the Pokemon games, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be Snorlax. And Snorlax is going to be called Silent Night. Not named after the Christmas Carol, sorry. Not named after the Christmas Carol. Snorlax is called Silent Night because, let's focus on what doesn't give you a silent night. What doesn't give you a silent night? What do some people do while they're sleeping? They snore. But if you want a silent night, you're going to have a lack of snoring. Snorlax. Silent night, Snorlax. Done. Now, we're moving into legendary territory here with the original legendary trio of birds starting with Articuno, and that's going to be called Ski Insurance. Now, the reason for this, my research has showed me that there is an insurance company that specialises in winter stuff, including very much skiing, called Snowcard. Now let's take those two parts of Articuno's name again. First up, Arctic. You know, obviously a lot of snow and ice in the Arctic. Now let's take a look at the second part, Uno. What is Uno? It's that wonderful card game, you know, where you go around and you take one or you take two or you switch it back or whatever, you know. So we've got Arctic and we've got Uno. Arctic, snow, Uno, card, snow card, ski insurance, Articuno. Done. Next up, Zapdos. Arguably the best of the trio by a long shot. And we're going to be calling Zapdos Pitchfork. Now, we're going with another musical theme here. This is named after a song, Sitting on a Pitchfork, which sounds painful as hell. Now, this is a song by a band called Fresh Young Fellows, and it is the second song, so we're bringing the dose from Zapdos' name into it. It's the second song on an album called Electric Bird Digest. And Zapdos is very much an electric bird. It's the second song because of the dose from the name, Zapdos Pitchfork. Done. Final member of that trio is going to be Moltres, and that is going to be called Pontiac. Now, this is a much simpler name than the other two. It's simply named after the Pontiac Firebird, which was an American pony car, which, as far as I'm aware, is kind of this sort of sport-orientated American, not so much muscle car, but sort of linked to that. But basically, it's the Pontiac Firebird, and Moltres, is very much the OG Firebird. So there we go, Pontiac. Next up, our first set of pseudo-legendaries ever, we have Dratini. Dratini is going to be called Racer, and this is named after the blue racer snake, because it is quite literally a little blue snake. Now, I know that Dratini is actually quite big when you look at its measurements. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know it's bigger than people think it would be. Excuse me. But yeah, it's the smallest of the evolutionary line. It's a little blue snake, and it's Racer because of the blue racer. So there we go. Moving on to a slightly bigger one, we have its evolution Dragonair. Dragonair is going to be called Cathay. Cathy, rather, but with an A. Cathy. Reason for this is named after an airline, Cathay Pacific, which I think it's kind of defunct now because it formed a merger with another airline, and this is genuinely true. The other airline it formed a merger with is genuinely called Dragonair. That's genuinely what it's called. They merged to become Cathay Dragon. So we've got all those things coming together to give us the name for Dragonair, which is just going to be Cathay. There we go. Final one of that line is going to be Dragonite, the big powerful Dragonite. Now I know that I've said I'm not going to be naming Pokemon directly after people, but I did also say that people can be involved in Pokemon's names, and this is going to be an example of that. Dragonite is going to be called Shearing. Now Shearing is a village in Essex, I believe, and it's served by the postcode CM22. Now, CM22, for those of you who don't know, is the Twitter handle of a friend of mine by the name of Chris. He's been involved in a lot of Pokemon leagues, specifically and mostly in an analysis role. He's a good guy, and he's very much a proponent of using Dragonite well in league format. And I always said if I drafted one, I would name it sort of after him. And that's why we've gone with Shearing, because the postcode is his Twitter handle. So there we go, Dragonite is Shearing. The penultimate, and one of the most powerful Pokemon of all time, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mewtwo. Mewtwo is going to be called Hitchhiker. Now, for this, we're going a little bit Greek. We are playing off the Greek letter Mu. Now, Mu, the Greek letter, are obviously spelled M-U as opposed to M-E-W. But, as I say, it's a Greek letter, but the Greek letters do have numeric value. And in Greek numerals, Mu has a value of 40. So that's the Mu part, but then we add the 2. So Mu plus 2 would be 40 plus 2, which is 42. Which anyone who's watched The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy will know is given as the meaning of life. So there we go. Hitchhiker, taken from that title because of all those factors, plays in and gives us the nickname for Mewtwo. Done. And so we come to the... Actually, before I say that, I should mention that this also works for the Megas. The Mega forms of Mewtwo, so Mega Mewtwo X will also be Hitchhiker. And of course, Mega Mewtwo Y. We're going to give them the same nicknames because we can. There's not any particular difference. It's based off the name, not the look, so that's why we're doing that. Finally, the final Pokemon of Generation 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached Mew. And Mew is going to be called Mobius. Now once again we are playing off of the Greek letter Mu, and we're calling Mew Mobius because of the Mobius function, which is a multiplicative function in number theory. I don't really know much about it because I'm not a mathematician, I never have been, but what I do know is that the Mobius function is denoted by the Greek letter Mu. So there we go, because of that, Mew is going to be called Mobius. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap us up for this episode of the Nickname Academy. Guys, we've made it to the end of Generation 1. We have nicknamed every single Pokemon from Bulbasaur to Mew in Generation 1. I'm very proud of the fact that we've got that done. Yeah, Generation 1 is complete, guys. So next time we do the Nickname Academy, we'll be moving on to Generation 2, starting with Chikorita. Now, currently I have 369 nicknames done out of 807, but Generation 2 is my least played generation, and also I think in terms of using the Pokemon, like in Draft League and stuff, it's probably my least used, so I'm really lacking on the Generation 2 nicknames, so I don't know how long it's going to be until we start and kick off with Generation 2, but I'll try and get there as quick as we can, because I've loved doing this series. I hope you enjoy it as well. But yeah, whenever that happens, it will happen, but for now, Generation 1 is complete. So, thank you all very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. Do remember to leave your nickname suggestions for these guys down there in the description below. I've seen some fantastic ones already so far, and I love reading what you guys like nicknaming your Pokemon, so do leave me the nicknames you like using. I love reading them, and it just brings me such joy to see such invention going into nicknames from all you guys. And it's important that everyone gives Pokemon nicknames. It's something I love doing, and yeah, plays into this series. So as I say, I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you all very much for watching, and remember, every Pokemon deserves a nickname. so make sure you give them one. But I'm going to get out of here, so my final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.